Welcome back to They Did What? Your source on the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go with them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a story titled, 1 Year After, Still Struggling. And a shout to Jeff for sending in this story. And guys, this story is about a guy. He is telling the story, obviously, now, based on events that happened 1 year ago, on events that led to him kicking out his wife and divorcing her, kicking her to the curb. You're going to see at the time he was only 26 years old and she was 29, and their marriage was crap. Drama, drama, drama. And when she wasn't getting her way about a certain issue, she was just impossible to live with, terrible communication, and obviously cheating on him. And when our guy, who does make mistakes initially, when he finds out and gets proof that she's cheating on her, man, does this guy go cold, and he handles it like a boss. And you're going to see how he handles it and doesn't give her drama and stuff like that, and it makes it even crazier. And now, a year later, our guy's doing well, vastly better, and her life, well, guess what? Not so well. And by the way, guys, this story reminds me a lot of a movie I just saw recently. The movie is called The Smashing Machine with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and that movie is on streaming right now. I forget which one. And it takes place like 25 years ago or something. He plays like a UFC, MMA fighter early on before MMA and UFC became really what it is today. And all about his life, based on a real guy. And behind the scenes, you see his life where he has his girlfriend. And this girlfriend, it is never-ending drama with her, played by Emily Blunt. And she just pick fights and stuff like that. And no matter what, it is an example of one of these gals that they're not happy unless there's drama, and what he struggles with and how she messes up his fights. And finally, well, if you watch it, you'll see. It's an interesting movie. And while it is a movie and a portrayal, it hits really home about toxic relationships. And you'll see in the movie, if you watch it, how like his trainer and friends are just like, oh God, when it comes to her, because they know the way she impacts him. And a guy cannot let yourself be in a relationship or marriage like. So it starts off, says here, a year ago, in January 2025, my wife, a 29-year-old female, with whom I, a 26-year-old male, have been in a relationship with for almost 8 years, started acting strange. Hold on. You were married at 26 years old and to an older chick? Smack! What the hell was the rush? That's one thing he does that's not boss-like. Well, she began reacting negatively to compliments and attention, constantly avoiding me and spending entire days on her phone. I assume she just needed a break from me. I work from home, and my wife has been unemployed for almost our entire marriage, so we were always relatively in the same space. Why couldn't she get a job? I don't know how long you've been married, but that's unacceptable. Sounds like she's a freeloader. In fact, correction, she is a freeloader. After asking her if everything was okay and if there was anything I could do to make her feel better, I received the answer that everything was fine. As always, I was still worried that she was simply tired of my company, so I tried not to be bothered to her unless she wanted to. You can just see how this is just a mess. This really helped my wife become less annoyed with me, and after a couple weeks, we began our usual communication and activities together again at her initiative. Well, a week later, she confessed to me that her new friend, whom she met in an online game, had been flirting with her the entire time, and that she'd been hesitant in considering leaving me for him. Hello? Considering leaving him? I'm a little hesitant about leaving you. No. What's this talk about you leaving me thing? The chick who has no job, but she's online playing games all freaking day. You can see here, this is a disaster. She was flattered by his persistence and his desire to have kids with her right from the bat. Yeah, sure. He's telling her what she wants. She also repeated several times that her new friend was from another country, had a business with exorbitant earnings, and he promised to take her there for a luxurious life together. Oh, for God's sakes, this guy's catfishing her, or if he's not, he's just selling her a dream to get her to come see him bang her and get rid of her. For goodness sake. Yeah, this is when you divorce her. She's talking to another guy, and she's obviously thinking about this. This is her way of saying, you better get your act together, otherwise I'm getting rid of you and leaving you for this guy. God's sakes. This is why you don't get married super young. Clearly he didn't spend a lot of time. He said he's been with her 8 years, but obviously he didn't really know her. I was completely devastated by what I heard, but had the willpower to listen without interrupting. She cried, apologized for even thinking about it, and promised to cut off all contact with him. Sure, she turned those tears on by command. I did my best to calm her down and explain that I still loved her and that anyone could have doubts. The most important thing was whether she made a mistake or had come to her senses in time. Dude, this isn't a mistake. She's showing you what your replacement was if you weren't going to abide by what she wanted. I reassured her, telling her that I was proud that she made the right decision. She immediately said she wants to have children with me, to which I was forced to gently decline. Our situation was not ideal for children. We were living on my salary alone in my apartment, and at that point, I hadn't yet received a promotion that would have reliably solved the financial problem. Okay, so he's being sensible here. We're in a confined space. I don't make enough money yet. I'm not quite ready. Meanwhile, she's losing her mind. Now, she's 29, almost 30 years old. She's thinking the biological clock. Fair enough on that sense, because it becomes more complicated as they get older. It's true. But still, he's trying to be smart about this, and he loves her. Ain't going anywhere. But she's got to mess the whole damn thing up. Furthermore, I voiced my doubts whether I was ready enough to be a father, as it's a very responsible task that requires serious preparation and study to ensure that children are properly raised and provided for. She became very angry with the whole response and broke the conversation after making very sharp remarks about what a terrible father I would be. She didn't want to touch the theme after that. So clearly she's spoiled. Clearly she's entitled. She has terrible communication skills. She's nasty. She doesn't get her way, so she has to just insult him. You'll be a terrible father. How dare you? The guy's 26. Now, I know there's plenty of guys that became fathers at that age, but still he's young. And by today's standards, is very young. This is a giant mess. And this, again, reminds you of that movie I was talking about earlier in the beginning of the story with The Rock and the drama with that girlfriend there. Her confession was extremely painful, and I struggled with the ensuing jealousy and anxiety, but as a logical person, I kept my composure and didn't mention the events of that night. The next month passed without any changes. My wife avoided me and flatly refused to talk to me about it, always responding with something like, "I'm tired. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about it now. Can we talk tomorrow?" Constantly postponing the conversation for various reasons. Again, a terrible communicator and a drama queen. And what do you think she's doing now? She's back to talking to that guy. This guy should immediately nip that in the butt. I would have been out of there. But then again, he's not doing that yet. Well, she started getting annoyed and distressed when I was in the same room with her more than a minute or two. "Bitch, I'm paying for this apartment. You can deal with it." She started hiding her phone, and completely unexpectedly, she set or changed passwords on all the devices she used. Devices this guy no doubt paid for. Before that, we used each other's phones and PC for surfing the web and watching videos without any problems. If she's on her phone all the time, if she's guarding her phone, she's changing the passwords, it means she doesn't want you to see something. Not to mention her bad behavior. That month was pure hell. I couldn't get a clear answer from her, tried to fix it without knowledge of what I was doing wrong, and a feeling of anxiety and helplessness becoming my constant companion. Because she's doing that on purpose to punish you. That's why. After failing to achieve any kind of dialogue, constantly hearing everything is fine, I love you, everything is fine, and seeing her acting increasingly strange, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to look through her phone messages that night, and that when I didn't find anything wrong, I'd tell her in the morning, apologize, and try to explain more to myself so we can talk it through and find a decision together. So he's hoping for the best. I'm going to go through her phone, and obviously when I see nothing there, then I'll apologize for going through her phone, which he should not. At this point, given her behavior, he has every right to look through her phone. Yeah, smack for thinking about apologizing for the phone. But guess what happens when he goes through her phone? Of course, I did find what was wrong. She was too confident in the password change and didn't even try to hide anything. Immediately after unlocking, I was greeted by a chat with some strange guy, or the same guy. Of course, they texted each other, "I love you, and I can't wait to be together." Sexted and exchanged nude photos. They already agreed to meet in a hotel and booked a room for 2 days. She planned it on the weekend, telling me she wanted to go meet a friend. There you go, my man. There you go. That's why she shouldn't be talking to other guys. That's why she had a fucking job and got off her ass, At least she'd be bringing in some money in some way, somehow. It's over, goodbye, and this is when our guy who has made some mistakes because he's young, now he's handling it just right. But what hit me the hardest was the hatred with which she wrote about me. Now listen to this, how women will always portray their guys as villain. She called me a creep, a psycho, a perv, complained that I was making her life hell, and she was afraid of me, and couldn't wait for him to come save her from me. The very thought that the person I held closest to on earth, whom I truly loved and cared about, was saying something like that devastated me, and still devastates me. Guys, this is why you guys do dating and relationships, or have women in your life that you're friends with in your family. Take with a grain of salt when they talk about an ex, and they start just going on and on about, things like this. And then you ask, what about you? What led to the failure on your part? And when they stare at you blankly like, I didn't do anything, tells you everything you need to know. Always the guy's painted as the bad guy. And the worst is when they make up shit like this. The next day, I calmly told her I knew everything about that we were getting, and we were getting a divorce. I interrupted her attempt at tears and contacted her parents to inform them of what had happened, arranged for her to move back home with them, and help arrange a rental apartment until then, and they could get her a ticket. Dude, just like that. Calm as can be, not giving her any drama, or not giving in to her, who wants drama, and notice immediately, boom, she turned on the waterworks. She wants to leave the guy. She's calling him a creep and a loser, and she's afraid of him. But all of a sudden, the water works when he catches her. I told her she could live with me as long as she wanted to, but as soon as she went to meet this guy, she would never cross my door again. So she decided to leave anyway with all her things on the day before her quote-unquote date. So she left anyway. Perhaps my calmness irritated her. I didn't raise my voice, didn't yell, didn't swear. On the last evening of our quote-unquote life together, she lost it while packing her things, saying, "You're a loser. You live in a hovel. You have nothing. You've never done anything for me." What? She has no job. He's been paying for everything, and she spent 8 years with him. He's such a loser, and she also married him. And this dude that she's talking to is promising her the world. She didn't stop yelling at me until I left the room. And that's the only way I can remember her now. The utter fear and panic on her face in the moment I told her I knew everything. And the hatred with which she decided to take it out on me for her thwarted plans. Yeah, he's the bad guy for screwing up her plans. Notice how the guy was smart enough to be calm and cool when he was ending it with her. And when somebody's yelling at you and throwing tantrums, I'm sure every guy here that's had a relationship had at least a disagreement or a fight. And when I say fight, I don't mean a physical altercation, just an argument. It's very hard to keep calm, to not start yelling back and cursing. And shit, even throwing a plate if she's throwing something at you, which she shouldn't do. But you got to keep calm, guys, because you raise your voice. And all of a sudden, see? He's abusive. See? I feel unsafe. And by not giving her drama, it makes him nuts. That's what he's doing. And he's younger than her. He's young. I didn't exchange one single word with her after she left. When we met at the registry office to file the paperwork for the day, we received the divorce certificate. Everything I felt for this girl vanished in an instant, leaving behind only pain and a feeling of total emptiness. I'm sorry you went through this, man, but it's the best thing possible. You're 26. He was 26 at the time. He's telling this now in the future at 27. You're young. Whole life ahead of you. You got rid of this anchor. Now, 1 year later, I'm still struggling. I managed to overcome the apathy I'd fallen into after the divorce. I took up fitness and got a major promotion at work, which I've been so eagerly awaiting during my marriage. It's awesome, man. You're moving up in the world. Higher status in the company, making more money. Exercising, that's key. You're doing great. And what do you think she's doing? Now I only have to do housework for one person, and my place has been constantly clean and comfortable. In other words, with her, it was probably a fucking dump. But I still can't shake that feeling of emptiness and constant doubts and thoughts about whether I really did something wrong and could have said or done something differently to prevent things from turning out this way. I can only calm myself with words that life still goes on. Brother, you didn't do anything wrong. She was cheating on you, planning to go meet this Casanova of hers that she met online, and he's no doubt catfishing her. And you try to communicate with her like an adult. she's older than you, but she's acting like she's a freaking 9-year-old, and I'm being generous with that. You know, it's a terrible situation. And regardless, even if you did some things wrong, it's a terrible marriage. Thank you for reading this terribly translated attempt to speak out. Trust your gut and stay strong, friends. Now I'm not done yet. Now the comment section, there'll be a little revelation about her and what's going on with her afterwards. And let's just say, guys, her life ain't going well. But anyhow, guys, you're going to see here, like I said in the beginning of the thing here, this guy, you know, he was young. She was older than him. Obviously, they got married very young, in my opinion. And even though they've been together for a number of years, obviously she put on a whole show to get him to marry her, and her true colors came out. But as a wife, the communication was awful. She wasn't contributing financially. She wasn't helping out around the house. Sounds like it was a dub. It was a constant drama with him, making him question everything. He wasn't getting any guarantee to that. And okay, fine. She wanted to have kids. I can understand that, getting that she was getting close to 30. That's no reason to treat this guy like she did. And the back and forth drama, he's better off without her, starting over. I just hope he continues to make the right decisions, doesn't rush into the wrong thing, but good for him, you know. And I like when he was done, how cool he handled it. That's the best way to go. Now, I'm going to read some comments here, and he's going to respond with some more info here, and you'll enjoy this part. One guy says to him, "You handled the situation perfectly, and in the long run, you will see that she may have caused you heartache, but saved you from misery. As you said, she was unemployed for most of your marriage and didn't pull her weight in your marriage. It would have gotten worse if you had kids." Yeah. Can you imagine having kids with her? Do you have contact with her or know someone who still sees her? Was she catfished? And listen to this. Our guy responds saying, "I haven't had any contact with her since the divorce. Blocked her on all messengers that I use and never check her social media since then." Good for him. That's disciplined. "I still have a good relationship with her parents, though. For obvious reasons, we rarely communicate now, but her mother recently wished me a Happy New Year and casually mentioned that the ex still lives with them and is still waiting for her prince to come pick her up." So much for the guys planning to meet with her in a hotel and take her away from this miserable life. She's still waiting for her prince to pick her up. Yeah, she was catfished. Yep. Probably he was trying to get her to give him some money some way, somehow, even though the guy had a fantastic life or something like that. Or maybe he was going to convince her that he was Leonardo DiCaprio. Every once in a while, you'll hear these stories in the news when some dumbass gets convinced that a person they're talking to is like some famous celebrity. I can't remember. It wasn't DiCaprio, but it was somebody recently. It's pretty funny. Another comment. "Your pain is a small price to pay in comparison to the misery you would have endured being with her all this time. It's incredibly disheartening to learn firsthand how devious and cowardly people can be, especially when it's via a lengthy relationship from which you were stabbed in the back. I'd give yourself some grace. Many succumb to fear and stay miserable rather than finding the courage to leave. Time will only make it easier for you." Oh, my bad. There wasn't any more from him. But a lot of people are now being very supportive. I'll read one more. And last one, this guy says, "She calls you a loser after she hadn't had a job her whole life and that you have nothing and never did anything for her, while it was you that provided and paid for the mobile provider that allowed her to start her affair. I hope that you know that when she threw that all on you, she did nothing else but to project how she thought about herself onto you." Exactly. Yeah. What did she bring to the table? Nothing. No income, no support, no kindness, didn't even clean the fucking house. He probably wasn't getting any, which is probably a good thing, because otherwise she would have gotten pregnant. Cheating on him, lying to him, she brought nothing to the table. And now she's 30. Ha ha ha. And also he says, "Congrats to the promotion. You've earned it. You did nothing wrong. In fact, there was nothing that you could have done. Her decision to start an affair didn't happen because of anything that you did or hadn't done. She made that decision because she wanted to and was unhappy with herself. That is it. Think about it. Nothing you could have said or done would have even reached her. She only wanted to interact with her lover. You're perfect the way that you are. Don't make it your problem." And she no longer was able to see that. Amen. So there you go, guys. A guy that made mistakes before and in the beginning, but in the end handled it right, and he's free, clean slate. And all I can say to him or any guy like that is, take time on your own, being alone, being okay with being on your own, focus on your job, exercise, health, hobbies, friends, all that. And then when you're ready, If you're a relationship guy, move on, but learn from your mistakes. I'm sure there's many things you can learn from this. And I mean, I have a hard time believing that she didn't show elements of her character in the 8 years they knew each other, or prior to them getting married. But then again, some gals can be very good, but usually people can hide their character 3 to 6 months. But by 6 months, the real them is coming out. But then again, he was very young too. So I wish this guy the best. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.